On behalf of the GNCC board, our members and partners, thank you for joining us for the 2025 State of the City of St. Catharines Address, presented in partnership with Verge Insurance Group. With over 350 people in attendance, we wanted to thank you for being here. We never take it for granted. My name is Mishka Balsam, and I will be your MC for the next 2 hours. Yay! Current times, more than ever, make us reflect on our history and the power of mutual respect and the principles of trust. So let us begin by acknowledging that the land on which we have gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place. And we also acknowledge the contributions of Métis, Inuit, and Indigenous people in shaping and strengthening this region, this city, our province, and our country. And now, a message from Electra. Thank you. Over the past 2 months, more than ever, businesses have turned to us at the Chamber for perspectives on the times that we are currently navigating, seeking insights on trade and tariffs, strategies to de-risk their business, and ways to rethink how they operate their operations. They're looking at not only challenges, but also opportunities that rise when obstacles are removed and new partnerships can be forged. The consistent message is clear. In times of economic uncertainty, our strength lies in unity. When we come together as a community, we not only weather the storm, but emerge stronger. Helen Keller captured this statement perfectly when she said, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." And it is in that spirit that it is my pleasure to officially welcome you to the Mayor Siscoe State of the City Address. And it is my honor to acknowledge the dedication and tiresome commitment of our elected officials. And here with us today, we have Chris Biddle, MP for the City of St. Catharines, Tony Baldinelli, MP for Niagara Falls, Niagara Regional Chair, Jim Bradley, Mayor for Niagara Falls, Jim Diodati, and Mayor for the Town of Lincoln, Sandra Easton, as well as St. Catharines City Councillors, Bill Phillips, Mark Stevens, Kevin Townsend, as well as many councillors from across the region. And somewhere here, I think somewhere here, we also have our guest of honor, Mayor Mat Siscoe. Our appreciation for all that you do for our community. But when we talk about unity, we also want to acknowledge the partners who make a day like today possible. To our title sponsor, Verge Insurance Group, our sponsors M&P, Electra Inc., Enbridge, the Niagara Association of Realtors, Crown Electric, Ontario Shipyards, YMCA of Niagara, Bell Media, News Talk 610 and Move 105.7, UTV, Cogeco, and Soundbox. Thank you. Just thank you. And I also wanted to express my appreciation to all of you who volunteer on councils, advisory councils, on boards, and in other capacities. And it's my pleasure to acknowledge that we have been joined by the following GNCC board members: Noel Buckley with Niagara Falls Convention Center, Bruce Peaver with KPMG, Rob DePietri with WMKL LLP, Dr. Barry Wright with Brock University, and Christian Wolf with YMCA of Niagara. Thank you all for what you do and give back to our community. And just to give you a sense of what to expect, our format is a little bit different. We heard feedback from you from the last couple of times that we held the State of the City. And so our format is that we are right after the introductory comments. We actually have the keynote by Mayor Mat Siscoe. We have lunch, and then we also want to hear from you. So what you will see in the audience right here in front of you are 2 mics. We're going to have a rapid response Q&A where we want to hear from you, and I will go over the details when we get to that point. So please ask some questions that are close to your heart, that matter to your organization. But now, it is my privilege to give a special thanks to Verge Insurance Group for not only being the title sponsor of this event, but for their pivotal role in supporting our community. As a comprehensive insurance brokerage, Verge Insurance Group offers an extensive range of services, including personal, commercial, life, and employee benefit insurance tailored to meet diverse needs of their clients. Their expertise and dedication ensure that their clients are well protected and supported. But beyond their professional services, Verge Insurance Group's commitment to building and enriching the Niagara region is commendable. Their passion for community engagement is evident in their ongoing support and collaboration with local causes. By giving back to the community, Verge Insurance Group not only strengthens the ties it has with Niagara, but also sets a standard for corporate social responsibility. Their generous contributions and active participation in local initiatives have had a significant impact on our community, many of us being directly impacted by it here today because they are valued and respected member that they are today. And to have set the standard for all of that is Carolyn Shirk, Managing Manager and COO of Verge Insurance Group, who I'm going to ask to come forward to introduce the Mayor. Carolyn, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today to sponsor the State of the City event brought to you by the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of Verge Insurance, I am proud to support this milestone event and be a part of an ongoing conversation about how we can grow and strengthen our community. As a local business, we are deeply committed to seeing St. Catharines thrive. Events like this are an opportunity to bring us together to reflect on where we've come from and where we are headed. Our city is constantly evolving. It is inspiring to be a part of a community focused on progress and positive change. Today, I have the honor of introducing a leader who truly embodies the spirit of our city, Mayor Mat Siscoe. Matt has been the driving force behind the positive change that we've seen in St. Catharines. His vision for vibrant, inclusive, and forward-thinking community has been instrumental in shaping our future. Under Mayor Siscoe's leadership, initiatives like St. Catharines Outreach, Engagement Fund SCORE have made significant impact, supporting local nonprofits and fostering a sense of community. His engagement to creating opportunities for all residents and commitment to public service are evident in everything that he does. Mayor Siscoe's passion for our city extends far beyond his official duties. He is a familiar face at community events and always willing to lend a helping hand. His genuine care for the people and the city of St. Catharines is unwavering in the dedication for making our city a better place for everyone. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Mat Siscoe to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Seriously, everybody should have the opportunity to pick their own walkout music. I keep coming back to that year after year. Thank you, Carolyn, for that wonderful introduction. It is kind enough and flattering enough that I believe it less and less every year. Thank you as well to Verge Insurance for their willingness to support this event once again this year and allow me to bring my words to our community. To the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce and Mishka, Hugo, Karina, and the rest of the team, thank you for the work you put into today and making this event a reality, and for the work with my staff to make it happen. To Alicia, Zoe, and Brianne in my office, thank you for all that you do. Days like today don't happen without your incredible efforts. I'd also like to take a moment to thank all of the staff from the city and the region who are able to be here today, and specifically St. Catharines CAO David Oakes and Deputy CAO Aaron Ohoski, as well as members of our senior leadership team, who I promise I will get to naming in a few minutes, and who, it should be said, lead an organization recognized this year as one of Hamilton Niagara's top employers. I will say simply that any success that I may have is a direct result of the amazing people who run our city and our region, and I am eternally grateful for all that they do. Dave and Aaron are the right people at the head of the city on the staff side, and I appreciate them both. I'd also like to thank my regional colleagues for attending. This is where I get myself into a dangerous situation if I miss anybody. I believe Chair Jim Bradley is here today, Mayor Diamond Jim Diodati, and Mayor Easton. I want to thank them for being here. And for the first time in my time as mayor, I also get to thank MP Chris Biddle for being here today. I suppose I should actually probably thank still Prime Minister Trudeau for proroguing Parliament and allowing Chris to be here to witness a State of the City speech in the flesh. Finally, I'd like to thank those council colleagues who have been able to make it as well. Deputy Mayor Bill Phillips, Councillor Mark Stevens, and Councillor Kevin Townsend. A notable absence today, and one near to many of our hearts, is that of Carlos Garcia. Carlos was a dedicated public servant whose leadership as budget chair helped guide our city through challenging times with wisdom and integrity. His commitment to fiscal responsibility and his passion for serving our community left a lasting impact on St. Catharines. We honor his memory today, grateful for his contributions and the legacy he leaves behind. If we look around City Hall, we find a lot to be proud of over the last 12 months. My optimism continues to be motivated by our accomplishments and what I know is in store from our staff. I want to take a moment to thank Anthony Martuccio, our Director of Engineering Facilities and Environmental Services. This year, EFES tackled major projects, including replacing the underground infrastructure along busy Ontario Street. I'm sure we all noticed that one. He launched an interactive GIS map that lets residents explore property lines, zoning, permits, and more. And most notably, EFES introduced the city's first active transportation master plan, a balanced, thoughtful approach to improving bike and pedestrian routes without the conflicts that are seen in other cities. On the GIS front, credit also goes to Planning and Building Services led by Tammy Kate. PBS is streamlining the development process, implementing my strong mayor direction from last year to reduce bottlenecks, especially in development engineering. Despite hiring challenges, they've cleared backlogs and pushed approvals forward. I often joke with Tammy, she must flinch when she sees me at her door. I'm there that often, but it speaks to our focus. Cities don't swing hammers, but we approve, we incentivize, and then we try to get out of the way to let builders do what they do best. In Municipal Works, Acting Director Chris Anders has stepped up big time. Under his leadership, the department launched a new onboarding program for seasonal staff, rolled out the Where's My Plow app, still in development, and advanced the ARMS project, our asset resource management system. This tool moves us beyond the old eyeball test for infrastructure, providing precise data on what needs repair, when, and at what cost. I also want to shout out to Chris for understanding the assignment this year. I asked all of our directors for 3 key accomplishments, and I got 3 bullet points from Chris. Well done. As opposed to the next person on my list, from whom I received a 9-page, single-spaced document that read like a novel. Phil Christie's team over in Culture, Recreation, and Community Service had another standout year. They revamped 4 multi-use courts, they upgraded a playground, and they resurfaced Kiwanis Turf Field. CRCS kept us in the top 10 rankings for Culture Days, and they hosted beloved events like the Lakeside Long Weekend, Pumpkinville, Let It Glow, and the Summer Concert Series, truly cementing their title as the Department of Fun. Legal and Clerk Services stayed under the radar again, as I've mentioned in the past. I prefer it that way. And under Shandor Chania made important behind-the-scenes improvements like bringing claims and insurance in-house, updating policies, and creating a streamlined public notice policy. That may not excite everyone in the room, but to the few who do notice, this was a big deal, and I count myself amongst those people who does get excited by that. Jeanette Pelletieri in Corporate Support Services has been navigating a very tough hiring market, modernizing recruitment and improving services like Citizens First. Her team also introduced our helpful AI assistant, Catherine, on stcatharines.ca, making it easier for residents to get information. Fire Chief Dave Upper's team made significant progress, securing outside grants for Next Generation 911 and the Fire Training Tower, while also advancing construction on Fire Station Number 2. Their FireFit team hosted a major competition and will host the Nationals this year, a first for the community, and it'll be taking place at Seymour Hanna in September. And one very big highlight, an all-female crew worked Christmas Day for the first time in our city's history. In financial management services, Christine Douglas oversaw the rollout of the new PeopleSoft enterprise system, a shared service with the region, and led the readoption of our multi-year budget this year amid strong mayor changes. Her team also handled the financial setup for our two new municipal boards, our Tourism STC and the St. Catharines Municipal Development Corporation. These accomplishments across the corporation reflect the dedication and the hard work pushing St. Catharines forward. I want to thank everyone who made this possible. There's one department still to be mentioned, Economic Development, Tourism, and Government Relations under Brian York, who played a key role as well in launching the new Municipal Development Corporation. Brian and I have spent countless hours together, advocating on behalf of the community upper levels of government and making sure St. Catharines is building momentum. I'll have more to share on the MDC shortly. One of our key initiatives this year is focused on storytelling, highlighting the incredible businesses that make St. Catharines thrive. This effort aligns with our corporate strategic plan and our newly approved 2024 to 29 Economic Development and Tourism Strategy, which lays out a clear vision to drive economic growth and make our city an even better place to live, work, and visit. Our strategy focuses on 5 key priorities: strategic economic diversification, talent-driven growth, quality of place, destination development, and as mentioned, storytelling. Together, these priorities lay a strong foundation for growth, resilience, and a thriving future for St. Catharines. Enter the Mayor Links program, an opportunity for me to get out into the community and meet business owners, new and established, to get a handle on who and what is keeping our residents employed and what they need from City Hall to keep growing their businesses. I met the team at Quick Plug, a company providing sustainable growing media that boosts root development and moisture control for commercial growers in hydroponics, aquaponics, vertical farming, and tissue culture. I also visited Decora Powder Coatings, experts in eco-friendly, cost-effective powder coating for aluminum extrusions. They offer architectural coatings, wood grain finishes, and shot blasting, things I did not know anything about until I visited them on Benfield Drive. But with over 35 years of experience, they serve clients across North America. I met Kevin Jacoby at Mecca Games, where they buy, sell, and repair retro video games and consoles while hosting community gaming events. They're also working to make St. Catharines a hub for esports, building connections across Asia to make that happen. This ties in well with my visit to Code Ninjas, which teaches kids aged 5 to 14 coding through a game-based approach, because I had to scratch my teacher itch some way or another. Then I headed up to Thorold to visit Destiny Copper. Now, some might think this is the place for a joke about South Meriton or Meriton on the Hill, but Destiny Copper, led by Greg Hanna, shows how our economic development team collaborates across the region to benefit everyone. The company started at BioLink, but quickly outgrew our space. Their low-cost, eco-friendly copper extraction system needed a new home, and while we didn't have the right fit in our city, the Thorold Multimodal Hub along the Welland Canal and operated by HOPA was perfect, proving that a collaborative approach to economic development benefits all of Niagara. Mark my words, Destiny Copper is a name you'll be hearing a lot more in the years ahead. Back in downtown St. Catharines, I met Meg and Greg Riddell at King Street Pantry, a whole animal butcher and grocer specializing in locally and ethically sourced meats. They offer fresh cuts, prepared foods like Scotch eggs and sausage rolls, and a rotating lunch menu, all while supporting regenerative farming. If you get the chance, try the haggis. It is fantastic. Just down the road is Largo's Loft, an 1,800 square foot natural light studio run by Victoria Van Heswick. Designed for photographers and creatives, it features high ceilings, oversized windows, and versatile shooting areas. Victoria, a proud grad and a very loud booster of our Enterprise Center, is an absolute asset to our downtown. Working closely with the business community has taught me something important. We are only as good as we are resilient to the changes that are happening around us. Last year, I stated that even with all the strife and uncertainty in the world, I had a sense of optimism. At this time, I'd like to thank our neighbors to the south for testing and trying that optimism with all of their might. But I will simply say that, regardless of the actions of the US president, that sense of optimism remains. But that optimism now comes from the knowledge that our business community and our community as a whole continues to build resilience as the threats from down south continue. It's too easy for some to believe that tariffs are someone else's problem. Here in St. Catharines, an example of how they could affect our community is being felt at Neptunus Yachts, a vibrant local company custom building some of the most sought after yachts in the world. Employing nearly 50 people here in our community and sourcing much of their materials and equipment from the local economy, this company is facing the dual threat of tariffs and the luxury tax that was introduced several years ago. Without attention to this issue by the federal government, these jobs could disappear from our local economy. But Neptunus is not the only example of this. We had the opportunity to collaborate with a number of local businesses to hear about the impacts and the strategies being implemented to respond to the incoming tariffs. Take a look.
Hey St. Catharines, Mayor Mat Siscoe here, and it's great to be here speaking to you about all of the things going on in our community. The last couple of years have been hard. We've faced a lot of challenges, and now, with tariff threats and a looming trade war coming, we are working harder than ever on behalf of our businesses to try and lead our community through the storm and get to better economic times. Behind every storefront, warehouse door, or manufacturing facility in St. Catharines, there's a story of resilience, of community, and dedication. The escalating risks of a tariff war with our largest trading partner is challenging businesses like never before. Niagara's border crossings are a critical gateway between Canada and the US, with over 9 million people crossing from Canada into the US and another 9 million making the journey in the opposite direction. A staggering $120 billion worth of goods moves across the borders.
So I think the tariffs and the threat of tariffs, they pull our business leaders away from what it is they do best. And in the case of the manufacturing sector, that's pulling our leaders away from being creative and innovative and growing and really showing the entrepreneurial spirit that makes our manufacturing sector here in Niagara great.
We have already seen the effects of the threat, right? It brings about a level of fear, anxiety, and that is devastating in and of itself as we try to conduct our day-to-day operations.
One of the things we were looking at to saying how much is Niagara going to be impacted by it. When we specifically look at St. Catharines, we're talking about 8,900 jobs linked to that sector. This will drive up consumer prices. The risk of actually further running into the challenge of affordability is something that likely not only the businesses impacted by it, but also the individuals related to it.
Very concerned, obviously, that how this is going to impact our business, our community, the people that work for us, because we're like family. Our business is like a family. We have people that have been working there with us since the business inception of 1987. So, it's put us back to the point where we have to analyze our business and see where do we get our raw materials from, because now all of a sudden the United States is maybe not our best supply base, if we can help it.
Niagara borders account for over 11% of all goods traded between Canada and the US. Looming tariffs could have a significant impact. Here in Ontario, we could lose 500,000 jobs if these tariffs come into play. And in our community, nearly 9,000 jobs could be affected. This isn't just about numbers and policies. It's about the people who keep our communities alive.
The looming tariffs has forced us to be a better business. Do better, work harder, work smarter. It's allowed us to continue to innovate and be the best possible vendor we can be today with new challenges. And we learn every day, we'll grow from it and be better because of it.
When we think about tariffs around here, we are not wringing our hands. We are not scared to death. We're here to support the communities and the customers that are here in our community. We believe we have a robust supply chain, a robust industrial base that we service that's critical to the needs of both the US and Canada.
So it's not like our customers in the US that are demanding of this. They would prefer it to not happen. And I think standing behind our customers is important, and just kind of weathering the storm the best you can. And maybe that relationship would even grow a little bit stronger.
Keeping resilient during these proposed tough times. It's super important for all the businesses around here to keep together, keep supporting each other, work with your local governments, work with your local community leaders, and devise new and innovative ways to support each other, support your business, and keep moving forward.
Right now, we lack certainty, which obviously affects consumer confidence in everything that we have, everything that we buy, whether it be a vehicle, a home, or even people trying to start a business. Once the certainty's there one way or another, Niagara and Canada will still get through it. We're a tough bunch.
We're still here, and we're still working hard to serve you. We need your support now more than ever.
It's incumbent. See, I paused. I thought there was going to be applause, and then there was nothing, so I started, and then you started clapping. It's incumbent on local governments to do everything in its power to face these challenges head on. In my role as treasurer and soon to be co-chair of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, next week I'll be heading to Washington for discussions on Capitol Hill and at the White House on how to protect the world's third largest economy, that is, the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Basin, which has an annual economy valued at $8 trillion with a T and home to 50 million workers, to ensure that goods and services continue to flow freely across the border. Here at home, though, we all have the ability to show the resilience that will get us through. We can continue to support local businesses like the ones highlighted in the video and like those I visited across the community. We can share their stories. And more importantly, we can advocate and adopt fair trade policies that promote sustainable growth for local businesses and small and medium enterprises. We can support local. We can support resilience. And we can support St. Catharines. Now, throughout the broader community, we've seen a lot of great news over the last year. Brock had a fantastic year, and a big thank you to President Leslie Rigg and her team for being here today. They celebrated their 60th anniversary in style, launching their new strategic plan, Transforming People, Reimagining the Future. With their first engineering class starting last fall, and both the men's and the women's wrestling winning their 9th and 10th consecutive provincial titles respectively, there's plenty to be excited about on campus. Niagara College had another standout year, ranked #1 in Canada for applied research for the second year in a row. They were also named one of Hamilton Niagara's top employers, and Niagara's top employer for the 3rd straight year. Beyond campus, they supported the World Rowing Championships with student involvement in broadcasting, construction of the alignment hut, and a strong team of volunteers. The Niagara River Lions brought a national championship home this year, CEBL champs after years near the top. If you caught a game last season, you saw a win, because they were undefeated at the Lions Den downtown with thrilling finishes. Watching Khalil Ahmad seal games with deep threes or alley-oop dunks from beyond the arc was incredible, and it's amazing to finally have a championship to call our own right here in St. Catharines. One of my favorite stories of this year has been the resurgence of the Niagara Ice Dogs. A big thanks to owner Darren Dobler and head coach Ben Boudreau for being here today. The young team has put up impressive numbers this season despite some recent injuries. In my view, Ben should be the coach of the year for what he's done with this talented group. Watching Kevin He, Ryan Rubrick, Charlie Robertson, and Brady Wasselin night after night has Ice Dog fans excited for the future. We also got to witness the 2024 World Rowing Championship right in our own backyard on the famous Henley Rowing Course in Port Dalhousie. Kudos to Bill Schenk, Vittoria Wixton, and the team at World Rowing for putting on a hell of a spectacle. And beginning this June, we will welcome the Niagara Ironbacks to the community as the first Canadian entry in the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League, which is an elite summer collegiate baseball that will play out of George Taylor Field in Meriton. Mal Romanen has worked tirelessly with city staff to make this team a reality, and as a diehard baseball fan, I can't wait to be in the stands, I'm sure, probably sitting next to Chair Jim Bradley, this summer cheering the Ironbacks on. Now, getting away from the sports field and arenas, there were also a lot of business achievements that need to be highlighted. I had the opportunity to meet with and cut the ribbon on the new Teppermans franchise here in St. Catharines. Teppermans is a family affair, and this 3rd-generation business chose St. Catharines for its newest location because they see the growth potential that exists in our city. And we know that growth potential exists. Look at the businesses that celebrated milestones this year in St. Catharines. The Penn Center turned 65 years old, still going strong after recent renovations. In the downtown, Critelli's turned 110, and Algoma clocked in at 125 years old. These two businesses, neighbors across the street from City Hall, are testaments to the longevity and doing right by our community. Our friends over at Oddbird also hit the highlight reel this year, being named one of Canada's 100 best restaurants. This isn't a surprise to any of us, as I would wager almost everybody in the room has probably sampled their food. It's great to see a fantastic local business get some recognition. Another great spot, Fat Rabbit, was listed as a recommended restaurant in the Michelin Guide this year for the first time ever. I am very happy I was right when I sang their praises last year. We saw the return of Dallas Green and the Born and Raised concert in Montebello Park. I took a picture as I was standing above the concert area and posted it to Instagram, stating that it was hard to believe that it was a picture in downtown St. Catharines, and I wasn't the only person who thought that. Fast forward a few weeks from that event, and Jelly Roll was performing his first concert outside of the United States at the Meridian Center here in our downtown. Back in 2011, I don't think we could have imagined acts of the caliber performing at the Meridian Center, and if we could, the vote to build it would have been unanimous. After Jelly Roll, it was another successful Grape and Wine Festival, followed up by another fantastic edition of Cicada Fest. Proof positive that St. Catharines remains the best place to throw a music festival in Niagara. In the midst of all of it, the Meridian Center turned 10, still one of the best investments we've made. If you were at the Jim Jeffries and Jimmy Carr concert earlier this year, the comedy special, I was there with you, laughing along and not repeating any of the jokes I heard that night. City Council also had an extraordinarily busy year. A lot of our work has been all about laying the groundwork for the development we know must be to come. We've made big strides in planning and building policy. Our new accessory dwelling unit program with incentives to support it is helping fill what we call the missing middle in our neighborhoods. The response has been strong, and it's not every night when the Property Brothers show up at City Council to sing our praises, but it is appreciated. But we didn't stop at accessory dwelling units. Through our Housing Accelerator program, we introduced incentives for accessible and affordable units, along with affordable housing parking exemptions and DC rental discounts to encourage private sector development. Now, you'll often hear that municipalities are the barrier to building. That's not the case in St. Catharines. We're making sure City Hall is efficient and part of the solution. And when it comes to development charges, I'd like to set the record straight, because a number of folks in the room have at one time or another over the last 2 months sent me an article about Mississauga or Vaughan slashing their DC rates. The reality is important. The reality is that even after their cuts, their city-only charges are still higher than what we have here in St. Catharines when we combine our city and regional DCs. For a detached home, our combined DCs are still under $45,000, far lower than what's being celebrated elsewhere. Maybe I shouldn't be frustrated. Maybe I should be proud. Flattery is them following our lead and pushing their DCs as low as reasonable. As mayor, I will commit here and now that St. Catharines will continue to have some of the lowest development charges for housing in Ontario. We will always maintain development charges in the bottom quartile, ensuring that building here remains more affordable than in at least 3/4 of our peer cities at a minimum. I will also keep fighting to reduce other costs and find ways to incentivize new housing developments. The cost to do business in the development world is still much higher than it was even 5 years ago. Whether it's the cost of labor, the cost of building materials, the taxes and costs imposed by all levels of government, or the regulatory framework that exists, the reality is that we as a city need to make it easier for shovels to get in the ground. I ran on a commitment to get housing built. Our city signed a pledge to get housing built, and I will continue to take the steps necessary to get housing built. In the coming weeks and months, CAO David Oakes and I will be working with the development community on additional measures to make it easier to build in St. Catharines. Now is probably a good time to point out that, as of today, St. Catharines has about 7,300 housing units in the site plan process or approved. That's 66% of our provincially set target of 11,000 by 2032. We secured $2.4 million from the province's Building Faster Fund, helping us keep costs down while improving housing-related infrastructure. But we need to continue to remind our provincial partners that St. Catharines is an old city. We turn 150 next spring. And anyone who's been involved in a road project here knows that some of our pipes are as old or older than the city itself. We will keep pushing for new infrastructure funding models at the provincial and the federal levels. Whether it's a return to the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 model, something I've advocated for with my colleagues at Ontario Big City Mayors, or another solution, municipalities can't shoulder these costs alone. The city and region account for just 9% of your taxes, but we are responsible for 65% of the infrastructure around you. That equation doesn't balance, and it needs to be fixed soon. We're not just focused on keeping costs low for development. We're looking at City Hall itself. Last year, we launched a core services review to ensure we're focused on what's mandated and what our community truly depends on. About 75% of what we do is dictated by upper levels of government and other legislative rules. The review ensures we're meeting those obligations while also evaluating the remaining 25% to determine if everything we fund is necessary. When the review wraps up in Q2, I'll ask Council to shift our focus to value for money audits across all departments at City Hall. While annual budget reviews happen internally, we've never conducted an external value for money audit while I've been on Council. Sometimes a fresh set of eyes is needed to ensure we're operating as efficiently as possible. Our senior management team fully supports this approach, and while I won't prejudge the results, if there are savings to be found, this is how we will find them. My colleagues and I look forward to the results. Now, this is only a 30-minute speech, and I have important issues that I still need to discuss, but I know a few people in the room would be upset if I didn't mention governance review. I will simply say this. Many have asked for the province to institute some form of governance reform here in Niagara. The options abound: 1 city, 3 cities, 4 cities, 12 cities, and on and on and on. I presented at the standing committee last year when it came to Niagara, and I said my piece. I think the process playing out in Peel Region at the moment is a good indication of what the province is going to do with respect to regional governments. I made it clear last year that if full governance reform was not to come, at the very least, the city needed control over our transportation network and our public works. That seems to be where Peel is going, and I hope these changes will not migrate to Niagara. One of the key priorities for this council has been improving the livability of our community. For years, recreational facilities, one of the few areas fully within our control, were neglected and decisions deferred. A decade ago, if you walked through our parks or played on our tennis or basketball courts, you'd see firsthand that maintenance and replacement had been lacking. That changed in 2015 with the adoption of our Recreation Facilities Master Plan, setting a path to better meet residents' needs. This past year, I had the opportunity to reopen several parks and multi-use courts, and that work will continue. Now, with the guidance of the Rec Master Plan Committee, under the leadership of my good friend Jim Richardson, the Master Plan 2.0 is in motion, charting the next 10 years. While there's still work to do, Jim and his team have helped make our city more livable. Our new aquatic strategy and field use strategy will give people more reasons to put down roots here. Building housing is critical, but a complete community needs more than just homes. It needs places to play, to gather, and to grow. The updated master plan will come to council later this year, shaped by months of community input. Given the success of the original plan, I have no doubt this next phase will be just as transformative for St. Catharines. In conjunction with this, the city also passed its first active transportation master plan this year. While in other cities, the efforts to increase active transportation options has been met with a lot of pushback by commuters, it is my belief that the plan put forward by staff, developed after public consultation and feedback, will avoid those controversies. Staff have put together a plan that makes sense, that allows active transportation users, cyclists, pedestrians to get from one part of the city to another without disrupting the flow of traffic. With a rapid implementation plan that has already begun, we will start to see those improvements in the next few years. The younger generation has made it clear. They want to live in walkable communities and not be overly reliant on cars, like we have been in the past. The Active Transportation Master Plan is another step towards building a community that people want to live in. The final piece that needs to be discussed when we talk about livability in our community is the elephant in the room: homelessness. Across North America, we continue to see a worsening in the homelessness epidemic in conjunction with more opioid-related deaths and the continued rise in mental health concerns. St. Catharines is no different, but we continue to make strides to address the problems using the best practices we can identify from across the world. In our downtown, we've increased the number of private security patrols. We're in discussion with the Niagara Regional Police about increasing their presence in and around St. Paul Street. Supported by Councillors McPherson and Ratzlaff at the city, I was able to convince Regional Council to fund a Welcoming Streets pilot project, a concept that has worked well in cities like Ottawa. At the regional level, my advocacy alongside several nonprofits and social service agencies led to the recent announcement of provincial funding for a homelessness addiction recovery treatment hub here in St. Catharines. Combined with the Bridge Housing Project at 320 Geneva Street, supported through the Housing Accelerator Fund, this will begin addressing the addiction and mental health crises that contribute so much to homelessness in our community. We're also working with the region to identify a site for the permanent shelter to replace the temporary facility on Riordan. While homelessness and supportive housing fall under the region's mandate, the downstream effects on our city can't be ignored. We can't afford to wait for action, so we continue pushing for solutions at all levels of government to ensure that funding and responsibility aren't simply downloaded onto the cities. One of the most significant achievements this year was the provincial government's announcement of legislative changes that will allow cities like ours to address the challenges posed by illegal activity in our community. I've spoken with too many business owners who spend too much time and too much money dealing with encampments on their properties. Through direct advocacy from myself and other big city mayors, these changes will help us ensure public spaces remain safe and accessible, so residents can enjoy their neighborhoods and businesses can focus on what they do best. Here in St. Catharines, a new public space use bylaw will help protect sensitive areas like schools, businesses, and residences from activities that disrupt daily life. Paired with the new services from the Heart Hub, Bridge Housing, and a new permanent shelter, I'm hopeful we're starting to chart a better path for everyone in our community, whether they're currently housed or not. Now, what I consider to be our biggest achievement in 2024 is the establishment of our new Municipal Development Corporation, long talked about and now a reality. I've mentioned it a few times already today, but the MDC truly has the opportunity to be this council's biggest achievement. The goals of the MDC are simple and straightforward. We want to unlock municipal properties for housing development, we want to support strategic long-term planning, and we want to deliver public value. Under the leadership of recently hired General Manager Tim Herbert, the MDC has already begun discussions with the local development community on opportunities at 3 sites in the city, at 6 and 8 Academy Street, the Old Jack Gatecliff site, and the Riordan Street site. There are a number of other municipally owned sites that we are looking at to transfer to the MDC, and we recently put a call out for anyone interested to join the board to apply. But I will say the deadline is tomorrow, so please get your applications in. The MDC really is one of our best opportunities to spur development in our city and take advantage of the steps this council has taken to make St. Catharines shovel ready. Now, one initiative that I haven't spoken much about publicly, but is something that I think is set to bring big things to the city, is the recreation of an old idea. After some discussions with my friend Barry Katzman, I made the decision last year to restart the Mayor's Prosperity Initiative, bringing together a collection of leaders from across our community from different sectors and industry. This group, made up of community leaders including Mishka Balsam, Morgan Buckley, Jeff Chesborough, Ted Kirkpatrick, Adrian Kulikowski, Keith Yomwanzia, Paul Speck, Rachel Stutchberry, and led by Chair Barry Katzman, are helping me develop plans for a new project that I am happy to announce today. The Neighborhood Investment Master Plan will be an opportunity for our community to identify how they want to see our city grow and what changes we can make to get that growth started. The focus for this plan will begin with the downtown, building on the success of the Creative Cluster Master Plan from 20 years ago. Where the Creative Cluster Master Plan had a heavy focus on public investment, the focus this time will be on catalyzing private sector investment in renewed residential construction and the development of essential amenities in sectors such as a downtown grocery store and increased office and commercial activities. While the plan will initially be geared towards the downtown neighborhood, the goal is to build a suite of change, from policy frameworks to incentive offerings, in an effort to increase private sector investment throughout the city in key neighborhoods like Port Dalhousie's downtown, the Facer District, and the Hartzell Road corridor. I will be bringing a motion to council at our next meeting, outlining the business case for this master plan and allocating dollars from the Civic Project Fund to allow for a consultant to be retained to help guide us through the process. Robust public consultations, market analysis, and identifying possible public-private partnerships will all be a part of the work over the course of the next 10 months. I expect to have this report before council before the end of Q4 this year, and I appreciate the hard work of all members of the Prosperity Initiative for their efforts thus far in what promises to be a busy year. One thing is for certain, our community and our city must continue to work towards further prosperity for all who live here and all who will live here in the coming years. The last year has been fruitful. The changes we've made and will continue to make will pay dividends for all of us in the future. But we can't rest. Every election, we hear residents tell us that they want politicians to think beyond the next 4 years, to think long-term about what is best for the city as a whole. That is a desire I share, and I work every day to keep our council focused on that priority of acting for the long term. The only promise I can make as mayor is that my decision-making will continue to be based entirely on what is best for the city of St. Catharines. I know everyone else in this room is committed to that ideal. I look forward to the work of continuing to build a more resilient community for all those who call St. Catharines home. Thank you. Now that the formal speech is done, I look forward to the question and answer coming up. I'm sure that's what Mishka's coming to talk about. We did fireside chat style the last couple of years, and I thought it went well, but I heard a little bit of criticism of people saying, oh, we're screening questions. We weren't, but I figured if anybody was under that illusion, we'd just cut out the middleman this year and ask the questions directly. So like I said, I'm sure Mishka's going to explain the details when we get started, but I look forward to whatever folks do want to ask. And as I say at all of my town hall STC meetings, this is your chance to yell at the mayor, so have at it. Thank you.
Thank you for differentiating that you can yell at the mayor but not the CEO of the GNCC. So thank you for that. Thank you for the inspiring speech and reminding us that the strength of our community is actually comes from the incredible individuals, many of them who are in this room and who make St. Catharines what it is. But I'm between you and lunch, and on that note, it is my great honor to acknowledge that Enbridge is our lunch sponsor today. And Enbridge's goal is to be the first choice energy delivery company in North America. They're a diversified energy company committed to help accelerate global transitions to cleaner energy. And it's my great pleasure to ask Eric Bishop, Manager of Operations with Enbridge, to come to the podium. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for having us. First and foremost, I'm just going to move this up a little bit. First and foremost, I'd just like to thank Mayor Siscoe for your leadership in St. Catharines and Mishka for leading the GNCC, and all the staff that made this possible today, so thank you very much. At Enbridge, our commitment to our customers and community is at the core of what we do. We're proud of our long history in St. Catharines, serving your energy needs as they continue to evolve. We're evolving with you. We're innovating in low-carbon options such as renewable natural gas, compressed natural gas, piloting hydrogen blending, and advancing big ideas such as carbon capture and storage, all with the goal to help reduce emissions. Enbridge Gas also works with large volume industrial users to help them realize efficiencies in their operations, as well as reducing their own greenhouse gas emissions by bringing them onto natural gas or providing them with more natural gas for energy-intensive operations. Fortunately, it has been recognized that there's a need for diverse energy sources to meet the province's growing energy demands, which is expected to grow by 75%, according to the 75% by 2050, according to the Independent Electricity System Operator. Just as no one form of energy meets our needs today, it's safe to say that no one form of energy is going to meet our needs in the future. To satisfy the needs of St. Catharines, it is important to find a balance. Finding this balance requires a collaborative effort with energy providers, regulators, and municipalities working together. We strive to make meaningful contributions that meet the needs of St. Catharines and that advance the work of organizations and initiatives that share the core values of safety, integrity, respect, inclusion, and high performance. This includes support for the St. Catharines Outreach Engagement Fund, Brock University's Indigenous Peoples Awareness Week, Community Care, Jillian's Place, and more. We also proudly support the Safe Community Project Zero, which provides combination smoke and carbon monoxide alarms to to fire departments in the Niagara region. This program is an admirable goal of reducing fire and carbon monoxide related deaths to zero, something that's very close to me as well. Enbridge Gas is your, as you can see, Enbridge Gas is your dedicated community partner in committing to delivering the energy St. Catharines needs today while advancing technologies and solutions to help support the goal of meeting net zero tomorrow. With your continued support, we can achieve this vision together. Thank you very much, and please enjoy your lunch.
I think it's working. All right, we're trying, if I could get your attention, if you can take your seat, any of the above. All right, we're going to start out with the rapid response Q&A that Mayor Siscoe had introduced at the end of his speech. So if I could have your attention for a couple of minutes.
Mayor Diodati, you're being asked to sit down.
Niagara Falls never sits.
Niagara Falls never sits down.
All right, and so just to give you a quick overview, we have 2 microphones that you see right in front here. There's one on this side, to the right of you, and to the left. And the format will be that for each person, we will give a total of 5 minutes. So what it means is that give it a minute or 2 for your question that you might have. That gives Mayor Siscoe 2 or 3 minutes to respond. Once the 5 minutes are up, we have timers here on our end. This is basically it. If you have more than one question, consider that maybe there are a number of other people in the room who would also like to ask a question, and that gives them a chance as well. So I am, at this point, looking for people who are maybe willing to be courageous enough to be the first individual to come forward. I see...
Is that my wife?
That is your wife.
Okay.
And now we have Chrissy.
Before we get started, I am going to ask everybody, can we give a round of applause to Enbridge for sponsoring the lunch today? That was fantastic.
Excellent.
I was really just trying to encourage my wife to sit down, but...
Okay. And for whoever is managing the timer, the time has started, so we're down to 5 minutes. The timer should be going right now. Don't see it going. Okay.
I'm just excited to have 5 minutes to chat with you for the first time in 6 months. So how are you? No. So my name is Chrissy Sadowski. I'm actually the manager of strategic operations at Young Caregivers Association and also 27 Huntington Lane and the Siscoe family. Just to be clear on all my roles.
Did you just dox our home address? What are you doing?
No, but they're fine. It's fine. Okay, so you mentioned you were going to Washington next week, and I just want to clarify that it's okay that I order out all the nights you were gone.
I will answer that question quickly. Yes, it's fine. Can you have a seat, please? Thank you. I will say that was better than being booed by my own wife when I got on stage. I know that made Diodati very upset that he didn't hear my wife boo again this year, but okay.
And I wanted to say thank you for supporting local and local businesses, and you're making a difference by ordering in every night. So we appreciate it. Very much so. We have, if I could ask you when you go up to the mic, if you could please state your name and organization. And I know that in many cases, the question might not relate to the operation that you are working with, but I think it gives people a perspective. And we have Brandon Curry.
Hi, Brandon.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
Good.
I'd like to yield my time to Christy. That was really entertaining. Can we do that? More of that would be great.
Okay.
Okay. I did write it down. My name's Brandon Curry, partner at C.R. Smith Financial. I do actually have a serious question, which is, so the Municipal Act actually doesn't allow the city to go into debt higher than 25% of the definition is own source revenues. By my understanding, based on the last fiscal, St. Catharines isn't even close to that.
That's correct.
So my first is, can you just state where are we at with that?
So St. Catharines has had a self-imposed debt limit of 10%. 25 is what's allowed. We're at 10%, just I think a smidge below 10%. We approach it and then fall back, but that's a self-imposed limit that council has made, and it's been in place as long as I've been on council.
So then my next question is, the public sector calls it bonds, but you guys call it debentures.
Yep.
Have you ever considered, or has council ever considered, issuing debentures? Because it's my understanding that the infrastructure backlog for the city of St. Catharines is approaching $1 billion, maybe around the $700-800 million range.
Yep.
Have you thought about that from a debenture perspective to raise capital to, expedite the infrastructure backlog?
So it's a good question. Really, the only mechanism we have, other than property taxes, is going to debenture for property for capital projects. We've got an infrastructure backlog, and I'm just looking over at the staff table as I say this. About $780 million is what was outlined in our asset management plan. Christine, nod your head if I'm close. Yeah, okay. $780 million. I will note the regional number for the entire region, I believe, is about $1.9 billion. Carnegie, can you nod? Thank you. So figure a third of that probably is in St. Catharines, maybe a little bit less. In St. Catharines, and I'll just say, everybody should understand the reason why we've had some issues around taxes over the last couple of years is specifically one of the reasons is because we are trying to increase that spending. In St. Catharines, we've basically doubled our capital spend over the last couple of years. We're up close to $80 million a year on capital projects. That's significantly more than what it was before I came into office, because we recognize we have a major asset management problem on our hands if we don't try and get a handle on it. At the regional level, that's, like I said, one of the reasons why taxes are going up is because we recognize we are not putting enough dollars towards the capital replacement. We will continue to do that. I've said to my council, 10% may not be reasonable as a self-imposed limit.
Okay.
I think we may have to go higher, but this is, ultimately those dollars still come, if we're not getting grants from other levels of government, those dollars to repay that debt still comes from the property tax base. And that's why I harp on this number a lot. You pay 9% of your taxes to the city and the region, but you have to pay for 65% of the infrastructure. That's an imbalance that just isn't going to work for much longer, because that infrastructure has to be replaced, and it has been replaced traditionally with debt financing through debentures. We either need upper levels of government to do greater funding for infrastructure replacement, or you're going to see property taxes increase. Yeah, that was Chair Jim Bradley cheering for upper levels of government helping to offset those costs, and I agree wholeheartedly with him. He's making it uncomfortable at his own table with the MP, but it is the reality. Ultimately, you want the roads and the bridges to be in good shape. It costs money, and a lot of these roads and bridges were built, 50, 60, 75 years ago. And when I talk about St. Catharines, we're talking about underground infrastructure in some cases older than 100 years old. I would wager a lot of people in this room have heard the stories about them going to do a road infrastructure project and pulling clay pipes out of the ground. We haven't made pipes out of clay in a really long time. That's a difficult place to be. So after a very long answer, the short answer is yes, we have to continue to use debentures. There have been some ideas floated as well around other types of municipal bonds and infrastructure bonds that may be possible. The town of Oakville is looking at the idea of tax-free bonds as something that the provincial government might allow for us to be able to do. It's an interesting concept. We'll continue to support them. And I think I'm getting close to my 5 minutes. The last thing my wife said to me today was, hey, when you're answering questions, make it short.
We like that.
Thank
We're
you.
in support of it. Thank you, Ben, for asking that. Over to you.
Hi, my name's Coletta McGrath. I used to be the executive director at Quest Community Health Center. I retired about 5 years ago, and I'm now pro-tired, as my husband would say. I've been involved in several volunteer initiatives. I don't know if Tapo Chumganda is here this afternoon, but I worked with her to initiate Future Black Female. I would suggest it's one of the most unique organizations in this community. If anyone isn't aware of it, I would suggest you take a look at it. Find their website. They're doing amazing stuff. Anyway, that's my promotional piece. My next piece is this, and you helped me with this, Matt, because you talked about storytelling as part of your strategic directions. My background's Irish, so I'm a storyteller. It's in my blood, so I will start with a story. My husband and I travel regularly. We travel in Ontario. Well, we travel in Niagara. We love driving. We travel across Ontario, Quebec, Canada. We used to travel in the States. That's probably going to stop for a bit. During our travels, people regularly ask us, where are you from? And we say St. Catharines. And they say, where? And we say St. Catharines. And they look, and we say Niagara. Oh, Niagara. And they ask questions every single part of Niagara, not Niagara Falls, our wineries, our gardens, Niagara Falls, obviously, the Parkway, Niagara on the Lake, they are into it like that. So I guess the question that I have, and once again, you sort of launched this question in my head in some ways, and it's this. You mentioned amalgamation. You mentioned needing to look at that. You mentioned 4 cities, you mentioned 3, whatever. Mr. Ford launched a review, I believe, in his second term. I wonder what your perspective would be in terms of whether or not, when he gets elected, whether or not he will be taking action with respect to that particular review, and what you would support in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mayor Diodati's giving me hand signals from behind you, just so you know, Colette.
I need you to pull the goalie here. I need you to give me an answer. I need you to take the risk, Matt.
No, I will definitely. I've been on the record, and I will say very clearly, I'm a firm believer in the idea of the 4-city model. I take this view. If you were to look at where the population is, where the economic activity is, if you were to plot that on a map, you would think that we had 4 cities here anyways. We would have a Welland, a Niagara Falls, a St. Catharines, and then a rural community to the west, Niagara West. And I think that's the best path forward. Now, I will say, I don't think that's the direction the province is necessarily going to go, because if they were going to do that, I think they would have already done it. And we saw in Peel that there was a great deal of enthusiasm for de-amalgamation and breaking apart Peel into its constituent parts. And then that process stopped, and now the Peel Region Review is looking at pushing pieces down. And I try to be a realist in this. If the province doesn't want to go forward with a full governance review and alter the structure fundamentally in Niagara, I've said pretty clearly, I need control over our road network and our public works to be able to build the housing that we need. But if you're asking me for what I think the best choice would be, I think the 4-city model. With that said, there is merit to a 3-city model and a 1-city model as well. I've heard people make those arguments. I just don't think that's where the region is right now. I think if, for those proponents in the room who think one Niagara is the answer, I think, from my perspective, that might be an ultimate goal, but there are intermediary steps that we need to take to get to that goal. And calling for one Niagara now would be the same as if you tried to call for it 50 years ago. It's that far in the future. But I think an argument can be made for the 4-city model, and that's why I've been pretty consistent with my friend Mayor Diodati and with other mayors quietly who maybe don't want to say it publicly in the region, but I think recognize 4 cities is probably the most reasonable way.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for bringing this question up. There were
I will,
a number of individuals.
just quickly, Dr. Tapo is wonderful, by the way. Check out Future Black Female. They're doing amazing work in the downtown.
Yeah,
they are.
I fully agree, actually, on this one too. Interesting topic. But next question.
Hello, my name is Holly Sauvé. I'm with Sauvé Advisory, which is an operations strategy consultancy in the region. You've walked us through a lot of the initiatives that are happening in the city, and it's wonderful to see so many and the breadth that we have. I'm wondering if you can just tell us which of the ones that you've presented you're most excited about right now.
I really think the Municipal Development Corporation is the biggest thing that we're doing right now. I will admit, when I was first presented with the idea, and you got to go back to 2018 when I was the budget chair, it was raised by, at the time, Councillor Carrie Porter. She brought it to a budget meeting, and I was a bit skeptical. And Carrie being Carrie, she dumped hundreds and hundreds of pages on top of me and said, well, you should read about it, and I did. And the more I read about it, the more I thought that it might be a viable alternative here. One of the problems we have in St. Catharines, we've seen a lot of properties, be put up for sale and then be bought by someone, and not much happens on the property. I'm sure everybody in the room has their property in their head that they drive past on a daily basis. I never any end to driving down Ontario Street past the 282, 285 Ontario Street, where the former GM property was, or the Queenston Hospital. If we go back to 2007, when decisions were being made about the Queenston Hospital site, for instance, the decision had been made to build a new hospital, and the Niagara Health System was looking to get rid of it. It was offered to St. Catharines, and we didn't take it.
I will tell you right now, in 2025, that is the most infuriating piece of information I learned in the last year. But I also understand why they didn't take it, because the city didn't have the capacity to do anything with it. You know, like we could have taken it, but then we're leaving it up to the one person we have in the realty department to try and become a property developer for a massive site in the middle of the downtown. That's not reasonable. The Municipal Development Corporation is that vehicle. That's the thing that we can now say, listen, we don't know what to do with the Jack Gate Cliff site, and all respect in the world to Dave Oakes and his team at City Hall, but they're not property developers. So we went out and we hired somebody who's from that world, has a background in the financing side of things, because that's the biggest sticking point right now. And Tim Herbert is in active conversations with developers across the region and developers outside of the region to figure out how to best leverage those properties. I don't want to be staring at a big empty lot on the former Gatecliff site a couple years from now. I didn't want to be looking at what's on the Queenston site. I think we're very lucky, I should say, with the Queenston Street, the Queenston site, the former hospital site. We're very lucky. Vive Developments has come in. They have a track record. I visited what they are building in Kitchener-Waterloo. I think I think that's the path forward. And Stephen Litton has had meetings with our staff. They're very confident. They speak very highly of the city planning staff about where they're going. But that was a missed opportunity. I hate to bring it up because I feel like it's something I always talk about, but 25 YMCA Drive, that is a potential missed opportunity from a couple years ago. The MDC is the vehicle, and it has the capacity to do good things. And the benefit for all of us is, right now, we're spending Housing Accelerator Fund money, and thank you again to MP Biddle and the federal government for bringing those dollars to our community. But we're spending those dollars so it's not on the property tax base, and I've tasked Tim, make this a winner as fast as you can. We need to get this thing to sustainability as fast as we can so we're not turning to taxpayers and going, hey, backfill this, because we can't be raising taxes for that right now.
Really quickly, I appreciate your focus on housing, as I don't think that's a super controversial topic. I think we all agree that we need more of that. I was also a recipient of the ADU grant, and I am a huge advocate for it. Really quickly, because I see a minute on the clock, is there anything you haven't mentioned today that you're very passionate about that you want to mention?
You know what? Something I didn't mention today, and my wife, making her ridiculous comment, actually twigged me to it. I've had the opportunity to do a lot of fundraising and help local initiatives across the community. The SCORE Fund, the St. Catharines Outreach and Engagement Fund, was something we started a couple years ago. The golf tournament is the big thing, but we've been able to use those dollars in a variety of different ways. We've been able to support Future Black Female. We've been able to support the Westview Center for Women. We've been able to support Young Caregivers and the Niagara Health Foundation and the Niagara Children's Center and Big Brothers Big Sisters Niagara and a whole host of other, Erin somewhere, I just heard her, but a whole host of different charities. And you know, sometimes it's big dollar amounts, but sometimes it's little dollar amounts. And by doing that, we're also saying, hey, you don't need to come to the city for tax dollars. This is the good nature of our community. So that would be a thing I didn't talk about today, but I really am passionate about it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm trying to get to as many questions that we have, so maybe from 5 minutes we're looking at 4 minutes.
Let's go to 4.
Are you good?
I talk too much.
Are you good with that? Okay. Keith, you.
Why did we move to 4 minutes when I got to the mic?
Exactly for that reason.
I'm Keith Yomwanzia from the Southern Ontario Network for Advanced Manufacturing Innovation, which is led by Niagara College. My question isn't necessarily about what's the one thing that you didn't talk about that you're passionate about, but really to drill down on a different but important industry in Niagara, and that's the marine transportation industry. An industry that we cannot take for granted simply because the canal is here. They have all kinds of talent challenges, all kinds of access to innovation challenges that, of course, Niagara College can be a solution for. But specifically out of City Hall, what types of supports for that specific industry have you been able to line up to support something that has lots of value across Niagara, but specifically the supply chain does primarily reside in St. Catharines, and so the strength of the marine transportation industry has its value to St. Catharines specifically.
Yeah, I'm going to admit this, and I'm a Navy brat, so you would think that I would have been hyper aware of the marine industry and everything marine related in St. Catharines and Niagara, and I knew it existed. I knew it was important. I didn't realize how big it was until I became mayor, and I started to have interactions with a lot of the marine industry. We helped a lot with pushing the provincial government to build out the first Ontario Marine Strategy. That process is ongoing. It's really important because everybody else has one and we didn't. And the truth is, there are a lot of things that the province of Quebec, the American states are doing to try and augment the marine industries that the province of Ontario hadn't been doing until a few years ago. So a lot of advocacy on that piece. And that's really probably the biggest thing that we do. You talk about the skills shortage. We've pushed for skills development funding from the provincial government. We've seen investments from the federal government in companies in the area, that we've advocated for. Our ActDev department does a lot of work along with the regional ActDev folks to really push for those dollars. We recognize, shout out to. I keep calling them Heddle. I love Heddle. Ontario Shipyards now, though, they are continuing to reinvigorate the Port Weller dry docks and are continuing to advocate for, a book of work that will keep them operating, at full complement with multiple shifts. Over the long term, they're advocating at the federal level. I've been there with ministers. MP Biddle has been able to bring folks down to go through the shipyards and get a better understanding of what they can add to the national shipbuilding strategy. And we're going to be there and continue to work with them to try and make that case because, this community and this region has a proud maritime heritage and a very long-standing maritime heritage. There are a lot of jobs that are related to these industries. Thousands of people work in either the marine sector or the spin-off jobs that are created because of the marine sector, whether it's, machining shops or whatever the case may be. Like, there's a lot of additional jobs. So we're going to keep working and advocating in those respects because it's fundamental to the local economy that the marine sector stay strong. I'll just add, part of my role with the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, I'm taking on the role as co-chair. I've really pushed the organization over the last 2 years. It was primarily started as an environmental organization. Those environmental goals are important, but I'm pushing the organization, and the organization is starting to pivot closer to the economic side of things as well because the blue-green economy is key. But we also have, from an environmental standpoint, we have right here in St. Catharines, Algoma. Algoma has invested billions in greening their shipping over the last couple of years, and we need Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative to push with both governments on both sides how important it is to not just forget that because internationally people are trying to push deeper standards. That's great, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you've got homegrown businesses that have, as I said, invested billions to become the greenest Laker shipping fleet, you've got to respect that. So we're going to keep working on their behalf as well, and the red light's blinking.
Keithio, great question. Thank you so very much. Critical industry for us, not only in St. Catharines, Niagara, but also Ontario. Rob, over to you.
Rob DePetris, I'm the treasurer of the chamber. My sideline is tax, but sometimes I actually get to do that.
That's a fun sideline.
Yeah. So you talked about the Municipal Development Corporation, great, but I just want to go back to your story, which started with, in 2007, they decided to sell the General Hospital. It's 18 years since 2007. I don't even remember when General Motors closed down. Let's talk about the Consumers Gas building, which sits there downtown, which Consumers Gas hasn't been Consumers Gas. Now we have Enbridge as our sponsor. Like, let's just go through all of this, Matt. Like, downtown is, I could pick so many empty buildings. We say, oh, we have this problem. We need housing. There's so many apartments downtown they don't even rent out. They're sitting unprepared. So my question simply is, what else is, I don't want to hear about I'm great, you did the municipal. What else are you going to do? Have you thought about a vacancy tax? When do we start pushing these private developers? Not all of them, some of them are great people, but when do we put timelines on these projects? Because it's ridiculous.
I agree wholeheartedly, 100%. On the vacancy tax piece, we've been having that discussion at City Hall, looking at what the experience has been in other municipalities. Because here's what I have to weigh. And when I have conversations with
folks who are doing the development in the community, in some cases, they'll push back and they'll say, okay, you want to put in place a vacancy tax, but understand, like, I can't afford to build anything right now. Now, that's not to make an excuse. You mentioned a couple of properties there that have been vacant for a very long time. I don't disagree with you. But stepping in now, when supply costs are at their highest over the last couple of decades, I don't think is the right time for me to be saying, oh, and by the way, here's a punitive tax that we're going to drop on top of your heads. Now, I think we have to consider it, and I think we need more tools to be able to deal with those delinquent property owners, because there are a number of them. That comes down to the province needing to open up the ability of municipalities to actually be able to take the bull by the horns. We are working right now, our staff are working on looking at the really horribly delinquent property owners, the ones that are letting the properties be, turned into, for lack of a better term, drug dens, flop houses. We're working through an avenue we think we've discovered in the Municipal Act to try and take care of those real problem properties in our community. If we can make that work, then we can start to expand that to other places. But it comes down to tools from the province, because I made the joke when the strong mayor powers were given to mayors in some of the municipalities. I joked to some of my colleagues, hey, now we have some of the powers that the public already thinks we have. It's the same with cities. Like, people think that we have much greater power than we actually do. I will tell you that Union Gas building, like, I would love for the Municipal Development Corporation to be able to come in on that property and do something with it, but there's unfortunately no mechanism that allows us to do something like that as it stands right now, unless we go to very great cost to the taxpayer, by chancing, say, an expropriation. I don't know if residents want me to take that chance.
Yeah, I'll just quickly add, today's an election, and so we've had a month since our premier called this election, and I've never heard anybody from any of the cities raise the issue of more powers. Why isn't that an election issue?
I will tell you, it's been a part of my advocacy efforts in basically every meeting I've had with a provincial official for the last 2 years. And I could put a press release out stating that I hoped for that. In the current climate, I don't know if that would actually get anywhere. I don't think if that would be particularly helpful, but I'm willing to try just about anything.
Thank you, Rob, for the question. I really appreciate it. The GNCC has also done a lot of advocacy, actually looking at the issue that is currently in place of how municipalities are actually not set up to succeed with the current model, and it needs a significant change and some urgency to it. Jordan Sherlock, Niagara Industrial Association, I'm introducing
Thanks
you.
for the intro. That's great, Mishka. Appreciate it. And I see no time. I was going to take like half an hour of your time, Mayor, but thanks for taking my question. We have to exchange notes on this timer thing because I need it from my association. Jordan Sherlock, Executive Director of the Niagara Industrial Association. The tariff rhetoric and conversation recently has spurred a lot of concern and a lot of national conversation around areas such as opportunity. We're hearing the term wake-up call being kind of thrown around nationally. And from that, I think we've seen some initiative around exploring kind of red tape areas and bottlenecks that may have existed outside of the tariff conversation, but are now being looked at with a finer magnifying glass. The interprovincial tariff situation is kind of probably the biggest example that I can think of. You touched on some of these items in your talk, but I guess my question is, what can the city do? What conversations can you have, hopefully in conjunction with other cities locally as well as the region, to really do a deep dive on what red tape might exist here in the region for businesses and, in my case, manufacturers? We have to find new ways to become competitive, to have competitive advantage and remain competitive here, both in Niagara but nationally as well as within the province. I think folks are going to be challenged to do that, and I think we have to come up with creative ways to say, here's a good reason to stay here. So yes, tariffs are a concern, but productivity and bottlenecks and red tape are a concern that existed prior to. So interested to hear kind of what those conversations look like.
I was really happy to hear Premier Houston in Nova Scotia put forward his idea that, you know, basically they would match regulations. You know, like whatever regulations existed, if something was approved for sale in Ontario, then it would be approved in Nova Scotia, so long as Ontario jumps on board and does the same thing. I was happy to see that Premier Ford had said that he thought that was the right way to go, and it looks to me like that's his path, assuming this election goes the way I think we all expect it to today. I think that work needs to be done. You're 100% right, though. It's very easy. Politicians always love to point at other levels of government and go, oh, well, look what you need to do. Yeah, we need to do it as well. I've thought a lot over the last couple of months specifically, you know, about what ails us when it comes to productivity in this country. And one of the things I've landed on is the administrative state. And I know my staff at City Hall are tiring from hearing me talk about it, but I think one of the problems is we bog ourselves down with so much red tape and regulation. You know, you want to come in and you want to get you want a permit for a deck. Well, you got to go fill this form out, and then you got to go do this, and you're going to submit your plans, you got to do this. And 100%, I agree. Like, there are safety concerns. If you're going to build a deck of a certain height, yes, we need to make sure it's got to be inspected. But there have to be additional ways that we can make this easier. You know, that's a very small thing. But when it comes to businesses, you know, we need to make it easier in this climate for businesses to get started, and we need to reduce the amount of time it takes, you know, because the number of conversations I have with young entrepreneurs who are trying to get started, they're renovating a building, and they talk about the carrying costs because it takes this much time to get this inspection, and then it takes this much time to get the follow-up inspection, and you're waiting for the plans to be approved, and every additional day is dollars, you know, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in some cases. And, you know, I've witnessed businesses that never managed to get the doors open because they drowned in costs before they could ever get there. We need to be doing more. That's something that's going to be a focus for the last 2 years. As I said, I think this crisis has crystallized what the problems are. At City Hall and at the region, we have to figure out how to get the administrative state out of the way of the people in our community. St. Catharines has more than 4,000 small and medium-sized businesses. It's one of the highest number of small businesses per capita in the province, if not the country. We need to get out of people's way.
Thank you. Jordan, thank you for asking. There's this quote that says, never let a crisis go to waste. And I think sometimes when a crisis comes, and we're likely in one, we see the opportunities and can move forward.
I will just say, I'm glad that the planning director isn't here. I walked into Tammy Katay's office the other day. I said, hey, what do you think would happen if we decided to knock our official plan down to 10 pages? It's like 100 now. And I mentioned in my speech, she cringes when she sees me walk up. I said, what about the zoning bylaw? Do you think we could get that down to 10 pages? And I thought she was going to cry. But I'm not really kidding. I think we have to start going through and identifying what's necessary, what's absolutely necessary to ensure safety, and then what's just an opinion that someone codified in a bylaw at some point. Because we could probably do without the opinions. We could probably just go with what's necessary to make sure that people stay safe and then get out of the way. Sorry, I wanted to add that.
Jeff, over to you.
Jeff Bolichowski, I'm with the Armstrong Strategy Group. We're a strategic communications and public affairs firm here in the Niagara region. My question had to do a lot with some of the talk of the housing target that you mentioned. We're on course to meeting that. A lot of the province's initiatives have focused on housing at or slightly below the market rate. Obviously, any average has people on the upside and downside of each average. What is going to be done at the city level, and this may have to be done in consultation with the region and other levels of government, to address some of the people at the lowest end who may not be able to afford housing at the market rate, especially acknowledging that a lot of our public and social housing at this point is going on 40 plus years old?
That's a really great question. We've got a couple of things that are going on. I will say we're incentivizing heavily the purpose-built rental side of things right now, and with CMHC financing, you know, that financing, a lot of it is tied towards making sure that a portion, you know, and a significant portion of new housing developments is affordable. We're going to have some projects coming forward in the next little while, you know, in the range of hundreds of affordable housing units. I'm really hopeful that council is going to see fit to pass those through. That's one thing that I think is helping. The way we're incentivizing projects right now leans towards more affordability. I also have the position of chair of the Niagara Regional Housing organization, and Niagara Regional Housing, I couldn't find the word there. NRH is going to be coming forward with their master plan to regional council in the coming weeks, and that plan is predicated on a pretty aggressive set of plans for building over the course of the next 25 years and doubling the affordable housing stock that exists through NRH. It's incumbent. The capital financing plan is actually very modest. It's not going to be a huge impact on regional taxpayers year to year, in the range of 0.1 to 0.2%, but those additional dollars will allow us to, as I said, double the affordable housing stock over the course of the next 25 years. The thing that I try to remind people of is this idea of the housing continuum. The housing continuum is, we get criticized all the time. Well, you have these incentives in place and it's being used for these brand new units that aren't affordable. Well, no, you're 100% right. The new units that are being built might not be affordable, but the people who move into them are moving from somewhere else that probably was less expensive, and so they're shuffling out. And then someone else who is in another unit that's less expensive but can afford the second most expensive, they move up, and people shuffle through the system. The truth is, our biggest problem in Niagara right now is that we don't have that housing continuum. So, and this may shock people, the whole point of Niagara Regional Housing is for people that can't afford to pay market rents. Well, we have a lot of people living in Niagara Regional Housing who've been there for so long that they are now paying market rents because for whatever reason, their jobs have, their education's increased, their salaries have increased, they're now paying essentially market rents, but there's nowhere for them to move. And we can't kick them out. So they're living in NRH units when they don't need to be. If there were more market units available, they could move out. And if I can move a family out of an NRH unit into a market unit, look, I've just built a new affordable housing unit that can be used by someone who can't afford it. This is what I try to explain when we have these conversations about our incentives. Incentivizing market units is just as important as incentivizing the other, because affordable units become available when market units get built. That's how little in the way of purpose-built rental we've got in our community right now, that if we could build market units, we would get folks out of affordable, and as I said, boom, we've built a new affordable housing unit.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I think this dialogue and format actually makes me think that we have so many more questions probably that all of us have, but please know that Mayor Siscoe's office is always open to meeting with you and connecting with you. And on this note, it is my great pleasure to actually introduce Sarah Hart, who is the Executive Officer of the Niagara Association of Realtors, one of our partners today. And her association represents actually over 1,450 realtors with the vision to being the leading catalyst for change in the real estate industry. So with that last question and where we're at, over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Mishka. Good afternoon, everyone. As Mishka said, my name is Sarah Hart, and I'm the Executive Officer at the Niagara Association of Realtors. We are proud to be sponsoring today's event, hosted by the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank Mishka and her team at the GNCC for another fantastic event. The Niagara Association of Realtors is one of the region's largest professional associations. At NAR, we work every day with public office holders to support a vibrant real estate market that gives Canadians from all walks of life, the opportunity to find an affordable place to call home. Today, across our region, young families are struggling with the cost of housing, and they are looking for help. They are also deeply worried about the economic disruption that would follow the introduction of tariffs by the United States. At difficult times like this, we rely on strong, principled, and hardworking leaders like Mayor Mat Siscoe. Mayor Siscoe has championed building more affordable homes for families and led the charge to attract new investment into St. Catharines. He is committed to working across party lines to get things done for our community, and he has been a great friend to the Niagara Association of Realtors. Our city is better prepared to deal with changes we face because of Mayor Siscoe's work. Mayor Siscoe, sorry, I'm not a public speaker. Thank you for being the leader that we need in St. Catharines right now. Thank you for committing to protect and defend the Canadian dream of home ownership in our city. And thank you for all your hard work in the service of our great community. At NAR, we look forward to continuing to partner on important policy projects in the lands ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving another big round of applause to our Mayor, Mat Siscoe.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. And Sarah, thank you. And my thanks go to MNP, Electra, Enbridge, Naga Association of Realtors, Crown Electric, Ontario Shipyards, YMCA of Naga, Bell Media, Newstalk 610, and Move 105.7, UTV Kojiko, and Soundbox, and an especially loud thank you and hooray to Verge Insurance Group for being our title sponsor, and to all of you actually for being with us here today. I think in the upcoming weeks and months and throughout this year, we do need to come together more often than not, because I think that's where we see the opportunities of collaboration and coming together to support each other. So thank you very much. Mayor Siscoe, thank you for your time. It's been a privilege.